Welcome to this video on Salesforce Flow Builder Essentials. And in this video, we're going to be generating documents inside of flows. Pretty much every Salesforce organization generates documents at some point in time, either a quote, agreements, contracts, offer letters. The list goes on and on. Documents are very essential. Anyway, let's dive right in. There are many chapters in this video. It's less than 1 hour. You can watch it end to end and get a very comprehensive idea of just the essentials of Salesforce flows and generating documents. Or you can use the links in the description below and skip ahead to individual chapters. Really make no assumption on past knowledge of Salesforce flows. The reason this is a longer video is that we do go into the details of Salesforce Flow and explain the various toolbox elements. So during this exercise, our story is around a Salesforce operations manager named Andrea. And Andrea is going to provide us several requirements throughout this exercise. And our role as a Salesforce administrator or developer is to implement her requirements using Salesforce flows. So Andrea approaches us with her first requirement, which is she wants to generate quote documents from opportunities and send them to her customers. So let's dig right in and create a flow. I'm logged into Salesforce as a system administrator, and from the gears icon in the upper right hand corner, I've gone to setup, and in the left hand corner do a quick search for flows, and under process automation is the flows feature. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new flow. There are fundamentally two types of flows. There are screen flows, which have human interaction, and there are auto launch flows, which run in the background more like triggers. For this exercise, we're going to be creating a screen flow to be added to an opportunity page layout. So now that I've started a new flow, along the left-hand side, there's a toolbox, and this toolbox consists of several elements. There are interaction elements, there are logic elements, and there are data elements. So we're going to do a really simple screen flow with a couple screens. We're going to start with a generate quote screen. I'll refer to this as the screen input. And I'm going to create a results screen. Once the document is generated, we're going to display the document generation results. And you'll notice across the bottom there are some navigation buttons, and there's a feature for control navigation. We won't be using the pause feature in this particular flow, so I'm going to go ahead and disable that on the final screen. And same thing on our input screen. I'm going to disable pause. I'm also going to disable previous since it's the first screen. And seeing as how this is the input screen, we want to collect a file name. We want to give Andrea the ability to input the name of this file. So let's just go ahead and create a text input. And a quick aside on variable naming convention. I like to prefix all of the variables I create with the screen where they originated from. As flows get larger and more complex and there's more resources accumulated in variables, it's just a courtesy to other admins, other people who might be maintaining this flow, if all of the API name and all the variables kind of line up. I'm also going to make this a required field. I'm going to give it default value. Let's just call it quote.pdf. And on the output screen, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put some display text so we can display our results in the flow. And what the user will actually see is the document generation results. Okay, we're done with that. And the reason this is called flow is because all of the elements flow from left to right. And these connectors, if I click on the circle, I can drag and drop them to the next element in the flow. So when this flow starts, the user will be prompted with the file name screen. They'll click on the next or the finish button, and they'll go to the next element, which in this case is the result screen. So let's save this. I'll just call this opportunity quote document flow. Let's save it. And I'm going to go ahead and activate this and go to an opportunity page layout. So from the opportunity, this flow should be available if I go to Edit Page and search for the flow component on the left-hand side. I'm going to drag and drop this flow into the page layout, in this case the upper right-hand corner. And I have some options here. There's two active flows in this org. I just created the opportunity quote document flow, and yep, that's the one I want. Save the page layout and go back. So I'm not quite ready to show this to Andrea. I mean, I'm providing a file name and an input. I could type in something like my quote PDF and click next and see some doc generation results. However, I've not yet actually generated the document. So let's go back to our flow and do that and actually build the document generation. So to generate a document, I need to go over here to the left-hand side and select an action and pull this action into the layout. And there are several pre-built actions available. This particular one is a document action. And I want to use the generate document action. And there are two required fields to generate a document. There's the document template ID, which is a Salesforce content version. It's basically a Word doc or merge file. And I need a record ID, the record to be merged. In this case, it's our opportunity ID. And since I have really neither one of these variables ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and cancel. And go get those two variables so I can use that action. The first one is the record ID of the opportunity, and this is actually external to the flow. Before there's a start, that record ID should be passed in from the opportunity. So the way I can create that is from the toolbox, go to Manager, New Resource, and I'm going to set up a new resource type variable. Give this the name record ID. The type is text, and its availability outside the flow. I want to select the available for input option. So this value is coming from outside of the flow as an input. And then I'm done. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And a quick note on saving. We'll be doing a lot of saving, multiple versions. There's a couple options every time we save it, and if you're starting from one of our templates, you probably would want to create a new flow or to clone it. But generally, once we've started in a flow, we're just creating new versions, and it's best practice to just write a brief description with each version. So for this particular one, we've added the record ID variable. Click Save, Activate, go back to our opportunity. And if I edit our page layout again, you'll notice something new will appear on our flow. the input variable now shows up. So it now recognizes record ID is available as an input. And by checking this parameter, this checkbox, I've basically instructed the flow to pass this record ID into this variable. So I'll click Save and go back. And visually, nothing's really changed with our flow. I can interact with it and click Next. Behind the scenes, however, it's now actually passing in a record ID to our flow. And the other element we needed for our document generation is the template ID. And so for that, I need to go get a document or get a record. I'm going to drag and drop the get record element onto our flow canvas, and we're going to get the quote template. In this case, I think it's our US quote template. It wants to know what kind of object, so we're going to select a content version, and there's some where clauses. It wants to know what conditions need to be met, which specific record are we going to get. I want to get the content version where the title is, and if I go back here, prior to this demo, I've uploaded a file to Salesforce Files named eSign Opportunity Template. I've also gone through all of the tag mapping, and I've mapped all of the merge tags in this document to opportunity fields. There's a table that itemizes all of the opportunity products. So there is a separate video for that. I would encourage you to go look at our quick start guide for setting up these documents. For the purposes of my flow, I just want to grab the file with the title eSign Opportunity. I also want to grab the one where isLatest equals true, because files support multiple versions. Every time I upload a new file or add some new tag templates, it creates a new content version that has the same title, but only one of them at any given time is latest. And also you notice here global constant equals true. If you're coming from a Salesforce administration background and you've created list views or formula fields or any sort of declarative interface with filtering, you're probably familiar with the operator, equals, greater than, less than. But what's probably new to you is in flows, it's kind of a part programming language, part declarative. And as a language, there are these S global constants for true and false. So you'll see that's kind of a recurring theme here in the exercise. There's no sorting required. If I were querying multiple records, I could sort them here. How many records to store? We only want the first one. How do we want to store the data? Well, our objective here is to generate a document. We want a template ID from this content version. So I really just want to go into advanced and capture the ID of the content version selected, and I want to map that to a new resource variable called template ID. And this is a text type. So variables are really kind of quick and easy to create. But I really just, rather than storing the entire content version document along with its data, and I really just want the ID. So I'm done with that. So now we can create our document. Let's go back to our action. And if you'll recall, this is in the document category, generate document. And now we can create our action. So our input values, our template ID is available as the variable template ID. And our record ID has been passed in from the opportunity. The rest of these properties are optional. However, we did provide file name as a screen input. So I'm going to go ahead and include the file name from our screen input here. We'll click Done. And then I need to remap our flow. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this existing flow connector and delete it. I'm going to insert our get document flow. So we collect some information from the user, we get the template, we then generate the document, and after we generate the document, we go to a results screen. So align these up here a little bit and save as a new version. So we added get record for content version. We added the template ID variable, and we added the action for generate document. Okay, I've added a little bit of complexity here. I could activate it and go back to the opportunity to test it, but this is a good opportunity to use the debug feature, because I actually want to see what's going on behind the scenes with these actions. And to do that, I just click on debug. It does require a record ID input, and to do that I go back to our sample opportunity, and from the browser URL I just pull in the ID. I'm going to paste that into our record ID input. And so along the right hand side I can actually see what's going on with the flow here. So I have a file name. I'm going to go ahead and click next. And we can see here from top to bottom the interview started. It grabbed a file name, clicked on the next button, it went to go get records, it found one, it stored its value in a template, it called the create document action, and really what I'm looking for here towards the bottom, the success was true and we received an attachment ID. So this all looks good. We're not really providing anything in the output here in the results, so we could improve this before we show it to Andrea. Let's improve this a little bit. So the output of our flow, if we go back into our document generation flow, scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see a checkbox here that says manually assign variables advanced. Click on that and scroll down, and these are all the output values that are returned from the action. And for this particular action, it mostly reflects all of the input values with some additional, so namely the attachment ID, the document we just created. So I want to capture that in a variable, assigned to a variable called attachment ID, which is a text type. And for all of our document and room actions, they always return a success parameter and an error message if there is an error. So I want to capture the success in a Boolean results variable. So we'll just call this docgen success, which is Boolean, and we'll capture the message in a new resource variable called docgen error message of type text, and we're done. Okay, so great. Now we can go to our output screen, and we have these new variables we can play with, attachment IDs, success, so we can provide some feedback here. The attachment ID, we'll insert the resource, attachment ID, docgen success. So we should have our Boolean docgen success. And let's also add our file name, why not? The file name that we created. So that's from our screen input file name. And finally, if there's any error message, then let's go ahead and display that here as well. So our docgen error message, which is we captured on the output. Okay, this is all good. This is something I would actually show to Andrea at this point to get some feedback. So I'm going to go ahead and activate this. go back to our opportunity and refresh the record. So we show this to Andrea. There's a file name. She might type in something like my quote. Click next. And great, we got a successful response. We received an attachment ID and my quote. We might not actually show the attachment ID in a real world scenario. We're just doing that here as kind of a sandbox to dump out the value. But if I scroll down here, I can also verify on the page layout that my quote.pdf was generated. I can click on that and it's been merged with the document. All the merge tags have been merged with opportunity values. We can see our table's been itemized and rendered with each of the opportunity products. And this is actually something functional. This is something an end user, Andrea, could download and send to a user. Okay, so we've showed this functional flow to Andrea. She's able to generate documents, and she says, this is great. And she gives us her next request. What she wants to do, there are actually two different templates that she sends out. There's a template she sends out to US customers, and there's a different quote template she sends out to her international and European customers. So she asks us to give her the option to select the template. So let's go back into our Flow Builder. Let's see how we might solve this. We'll go to our input screen, and we're going to give her a choice. Let's use radio buttons. And we're going to call this quote template. And just so I can visually spot this from other elements, we'll call this the template type. And we're going to enter some choices here. So the first choice, we'll need to create a new resource of type choice. And we're going to call this just the US choice. US quote template, data type text, choice value US. And we're going to provide a choice, new resource of type choice with an API name of, let's just call it Euro. And Euro quote template, data type text, choice value Euro. And we're going to provide a default option for US. So now Andrea can choose between the US quote template, a Euro. We could add EMEA, Asian. We can break these templates down into however many options. They could be templates for resellers, templates with discount, without discount. There's really any number of template choices and options we can add here. But we'll start with these two. So what I need to do now is, once the user has selected one of these templates, I need to make a decision and I need to get the appropriate template. So what I'm going to do is, this is the first opportunity for us to use a logic element template here on the left hand side. And in this case, we're going to use the decision element. And this decision is going to ask a really simple question, which is use the US template. And it's just going to have a really simple yes and no response on the decision. So the criteria for the yes is going to be the screen input template type equals US. And our default outcome, I just like to label those as no. Anytime I'm doing a Boolean yes or no condition, just always change that default to no. I click done, and so now I'm going to delete this connector, and right after the user enters, clicks next on the first screen, we're going to go down to our decision template, and the decision template we'll go to the US document if indeed the user chose the US option. But if they choose the European template, we need to go get the European template. So I'm going to add another get record here. This is going to be get Euro quote template. And the exact same exercise as before. We're getting a content version where the title equals a particular document name and is latest is true. And prior to this, I've also uploaded another file template. This is a Word document called Euro quote template. I'll go back into the Flow Builder. We're going to grab that. And we've already created a variable called template. So I want to take the output and assign this to a template ID. So I know I've gone by kind of fast here, so just kind of a quick recap. If the user hits next, we're going to make a decision. If they selected the US template, we're going to continue using the template that we're already using. Otherwise, we are going to go get a template named EuroQuote template. But we're also going to assign it to the same template ID. So both of these get records, essentially, they get different types of documents, but they both populate a template ID. And then we go to a screen output. Okay, so let's test this in our debugger. I'm going to go ahead and save as. We've added support for multi quote templates. I'm going to save it, launch the debugger, grab our ID for the record ID, paste that in and run it. So I'm going to call this one EuroQuote, and I'm going to select the EuroQuote option and hit next. Okay, so along the right hand side here we can see the flow. The interview started, there was some screen input, we selected the EuroQuote template, we hit our first decision and it determined that the default outcome was executed, not the yes flow, so we are entering the Euro decision. It went and retrieved the EuroQuote template, assigned that template ID, that flowed into the created document, which was successful. So we successfully created a Euro document. And although we are on the debugger, it actually is operating against the live record. So I could go back to the opportunity here and see that yes, indeed, EuroQuote was created. This is the European template. We have Euro currency sign. So visually, this is working as expected. And we're ready to show this to Andrea. So we can go ahead and activate this. We go back to the opportunity, refresh. She could create a new document, my EuroQuote, next. Successful, no error message, and we see that we have a new my EuroQuote PDF. Okay, so Andrea seems happy with this so far. She comes back to us with a request. She says, I need to generate some of my quotes in Microsoft Word format, and in fact, after close one, I want some of these quotes to turn into contracts, which may go into a redlining and legal review process, and so she needs these in a Microsoft Word format. And we say, sure, we'll just add another choice to our input screen here. So I'm going to go ahead and add a radio button. Let's go ahead and label this as file format. screen input. The first choice we're going to create is going to be a choice resource labeled choice PDF. This is going to be a text type. And the API for this action I happen to know wants the actual value PDF. We'll add another choice. New resource, type choice. API wants Word as the input. So we have two choices here, Adobe PDF and Microsoft Word. The default will be PDF, and we're done. We go over to our document action. We scroll down. There is a file format option that we can pass into this action. So now we want to include the value from our screen input file format. We can click Done, Save As, and then we've added support for PDF and Word formats. We'll go ahead and activate this, go back to our opportunity and refresh. And we can see that we do have MS Word as an option in addition to our quote template. As a bonus, more of an intermediate, it would be nice to make sure the file name actually ends with docx if the MS Word is selected. But for now, I'll go ahead and type that in, click Next. That was successful. Go to my attachments, and we can see we have a new quote.docx Microsoft document. Okay, you'll notice here every time I generate a document, it's accumulating new attachments on the opportunity record. There's actually a better feature in Salesforce with chatter files. If I scroll down here, I've also allowed on the page layout here the files related list. And I'm going to go back into my Flow Builder, the document action, and there's a couple other properties I want to enable. So I want to include attach as file rather than a legacy classic attachment. We're going to use file. I also want to attach each file as a new version. Set that to true. And go ahead and save as here. And we've enabled chatter files, activate it. And this is just a much better experience for our end users. I could create a document, quote.pdf, next. And if I scroll down here, after refreshing the page, I'll notice this document now shows up under files instead of attachments. Well, files and attachments, but now we have our first file. And there's just a lot more information. There's a lot more I can do with a file. I can share it. There's public links. There's multiple versions. I can view the file details, attach it to other records through a junction. So a lot more power, a lot more flexibility with Salesforce files. And to demonstrate the versioning, I'm just going to click Next again. And you'll recall with our previous setting that would have generated a new attachment. But if I go down to files here, I can see that there is still only one document called quote PDF. And if I view the file details, I'm actually on version 2. So the second time I clicked Next and generate the document, now I'm just accumulating new versions of the same document. So that's more efficient, and it also is a useful kind of audit trail during the opportunity process. So for example, if I were to go into this particular product that currently has a quantity of 2, I'm going to change this to 10, just as an example, generate a new document. So now I can go down to my file, and I can see now in version 3 of this document, There's an audit trail. Previous versions had a quantity of 2, and this particular one has a quantity of 10. So we are capturing an activity trail on this very fluid opportunity. Okay, so Andrea seems happy. She's able to generate documents. She can choose a template. She can choose the file type. And now for her final requirement, she wants to be able to send the documents as email attachments. So let's go back into our Flow Builder and add that functionality. On the input screen, I'm going to add a checkbox here and just prompt the end user whether or not they want to send email with attachment. And need to give this API name, screen input, send email. In the action we want to add here, there's a pre-built action for sending mail with attachments. I'm going to drag that onto the layout here. Go to the document category and search for the action called send email with attachment. And this particular action only has one required input. It wants to know the attachment ID, which we've already captured. And we'll give this a name, send email. Action. And there's many optional fields here: the email from, the email to, email body, email subject. I could use an email template. And as a Salesforce administrator, there may be use cases where I programmatically know, for example, that I always want to send it to a primary contact ID on a record. In this case, I'm going to let the end user actually input the different values for the email. So to do that, we're going to add one more screen here really quickly. We want to call this send email. Our control navigation, we're going to disable the pause. And let's add a few text boxes here. We're going to have an email to, and let's add one for the email subject. And let's do a long text for the email body. So real quickly, this is going to be email to address. Let's make that required. And we're going to have an email subject. Let's make that required. And we're going to have an email message, which will be our the body of the email. Also make that required. Okay. So now over here in our action, we're just going to refer to those inputs for our email body. Let's grab our screen input. Email input body. For our email subject, that's going to be our email input subject. And for the email to, this is going to be our email input to address. Same thing for email name. Let's just go ahead and reuse the email address. Email from name, just use our organization name. Email from address. And there's a few other options here. I could save this email as an activity, true or false. So this will create an activity on the opportunity record when it's sent. This is good. It is kind of an activity audit trail. CC email addresses. Any other people internally want to be CC'd anytime an email goes out. I could optionally include comma separated values here. And again, before I move on, I don't want to understate the power of this email template feature. By creating a classic email template, that will actually provide both the subject and the body, and additionally provide a merge template. So if I provide an email to ID and it's a contact, it'll merge that contact into the email template, which is a very powerful feature. Okay, so the user at the beginning of this flow, we've set this up so they're going to check a checkbox if they intend to send an email. So after we generate the document, we only want to prompt them with the email screen if they've checked that checkbox. So we'll just do kind of a quick if decision here. If send email equals yes, and yes is defined as whether or not the screen input send email equals true. Set our no branch. So if the send email box is checked, then we want to show them the email screen. So yes, that's our yes branch. If it's not checked, then we're just going to go to our current result screen as it is. Okay. Okay, so after we generate this document, we want to check this condition, which means we're going to have to remove its connection to the output screen. We want to flow from the document generation. We want to ask the question, if send email is enabled, yes, then let's go ahead and capture information on a screen, send the email, and then show the results. We could also improve our results screen here if we go back into our send email action. We have a couple outputs here, so we have a success. Let's go ahead and grab a new variable with send email success of type Boolean, and yeah, as an output we also have an error message, so let's capture that as a variable. Send email error message type text. And on our output screen, let's go ahead and indicate whether or not the email was sent. So email sent will be our send email success flag. And if there is any sort of email error message, we'll grab that here. Okay, and because this is a rich text editor, we can do any sort of like formatting. We can make this look a little bit, a little more contrast here. All right, so we're ready to go. Let's go ahead and test this. Now I did add some complexity here. So I do want to see what's going on under the covers here as the flow progresses. So what I'm going to do is save this as a new version. And we've added send email functionality. I'm going to go ahead and launch our debugger, grab a test record ID, paste it in. So as I go through my flow, now we have confirmed we have an option here to send email. I'm going to hit next. So along the right hand side I can see that it did retrieve a template, it did create a document, and it encountered our new decision. Was the send email checkbox enabled? Yes, then show this screen. So now we're prompted with a new screen. Let's go ahead and just put in some values here for our email. click next. And that went pretty quick, so I can see from the output the email was sent. And if I resume the flow along the right-hand side, I can see that we did hit the email decision. We were prompted with a screen. We input some values. We pass those values to the send document action. And in response, we received success true, and there was no errors, so the error message is null. Okay, I can check my email inbox. On a good day, that's pretty fast. Well, good. I can see from 0 minutes ago we did receive this email. So the end user would receive an email. They get an attachment, PDF. This is our quantity 10, the most recent version. And so good, our flow appears to be working. I'm going to go ahead and go back and refresh our opportunity and confirm this is active. Okay. All right, so we show this to Andrea, and now she has pretty much everything she needs to do some end-to-end quoting. So she can do my quote, docx with the Euro template, MS Word, send as attachment, next. And she's prompted for the email inputs. And the results. And again, on a good day, if I refresh my inbox, then we can see Andrea's test here. It did indeed send a Word document with the Euro template. Okay, so that pretty much concludes the essentials of generating a document. I'm going to show one more feature that's going to kind of set up the more intermediate and advanced features here, which is we're currently showing this document generation component on the upper right-hand corner in a one-column layout. Then I'm going to go into our edit page, into the page layout, and I'm going to add a new tab next to details. And this is going to be a custom tab. And we'll just call this quote document. Select the tab. I'm going to drag and drop our existing flow component over to a wider space. So now that we can start utilizing the full main workspace, we can do two-column layouts, we can do more robust wizards, we can introduce more graphical images, and kind of the beginnings of a basic CPQ, configure price quote. So now sales users have the full page layout, managing their products and attachments. If they want to generate a document, they can just go into this new component. Okay, thank you very much for watching. If you want to get started generating documents in your Salesforce org, just go out to the App Exchange and search for iDialogue, or go to our website, getpacificapps.com. Review any of our online resources. Everything I've described here, the two actions, are documented in detail. The generate document and send email actions are available from our resources tab. I would also recommend signing up for our Tuesday training course at 10 o'clock. Every Tuesday we do training either around Salesforce flows and intermediate, advanced. So if you enjoyed what you see here, please subscribe to our channel and sign up for our Tuesday training. Thank you.